Welcome, everyone, to episode 2 of Barbarian Banter. I'm your host, Jonas Kilker.
And I'm Dane Miller-Haas, excited to be back for this second episode. We have a couple cool things for you guys. So, to get us started, we received some fan art. So, I'm going to go ahead and put it on the screen, and Jonas will blow it up for you guys in post.
Yeah, let's see it.
Let me get this shared, because it's pretty awesome. All right, Jonas, are you seeing what I'm seeing?
I am. This genuinely made my day when you sent me this morning.
Yeah, it was. So this is from Leon RC on Instagram. He sent this my way this week, and I think it's amazing. It's super cool to see both Jonas and I depicted in this awesome heroic way, and
you were telling me what's this modeled after again?
Yeah, so part of his inspiration was the Lambton Worm, or the Lambton Worm. Sorry, Lambton Worm, and this worm I actually know a little bit about because I had a book of mythological monsters growing up, and the Lambton Worm was one of the monsters featured in it.
I think I had one of those books actually. It's like one of those like big coffee tale textbook kind of things.
Yeah, and it's got like drawings of the monsters, and it'll like tell you, how tall it is, and a little bit
some
about
of them have like the
fairy tale.
They have like sensory sort of things, like they put like the fur of the. I think I had that.
Yeah. I still have it at my grandma's house somewhere.
Nice.
But yeah, this creature is partially inspired by that, and also the Laidley worm, which is a worm I haven't heard of. Worms being in mythology pretty close to serpents and dragons. So the funny thing about this one, I'll very briefly recap what happens in the legend.
Sure.
A young boy is fishing in a lake during church hours, and an old man warns him bad things happen when you skip church. And he's kind of a young juvenile delinquent. He fishes out this little baby worm, and he throws the baby worm in a well. And then when he's a young man, he goes off and fights on the Crusades as penance for being a bad boy when he was younger. But in that time that he's off at the Crusades, the worm grows into this giant creature, and it starts terrorizing the lands which are owned by his father. It's eating livestock, it's killing villagers, and all that. So he comes back, his father's lands are devastated, and he's got to slay this worm. And the worm, the villagers and knights have tried to kill the worm, but it can piece itself back together. So it keeps winning. And the old man from before, it might be a witch, I can't remember, but she tells him to sew spear points on his armor, so that when it tries to constrict him, it'll cut itself into ribbons.
Nice,
and then
very smart.
Stand in the river so the river washes away the pieces, and it won't be able to put itself back together the way that it does. And does that, slays the monster, but it doesn't have a happy ending because there's a curse, and he's supposed to kill the first living creature he sees.
Oh, wow.
And his father's supposed to release a hound for him to kill, or else his family will be cursed for 9 generations, I think, maybe 7 or 9. And his father forgets to do that. He sees his dad, doesn't have the heart to kill his dad. And his family's cursed for 9 generations. But
God, man, that's such a great trolley problem. It's like, do you slay your father for the sake of your children and their children and their children's children, or do you just live out the rest of your days with your pops? That's
he didn't have the stomach for it.
I mean, I can't say that I would either. I don't know. I've never been faced with that situation, thankfully. Jeez.
But yeah, so I guess that's why we're in a river.
Yeah, super badass though.
I love the attention to detail. I've got my gym pants, the wizard hat, bronze sword there.
No, it's
We
fucking
really
perfect.
got our likenesses quite
Yeah, he
quite
did.
well.
He got my eyes and my mustache. I wish I like I don't know. Maybe this guy is a lot more handsome than I am, but it's pretty cool.
You know, funnily
I like
enough,
the position too. The like backward stab. That's awesome.
yeah, you're totally Ara farming. Just
He also got the color of our swords correct because I own two swords, and they're both silver. They're both silver, and yours is gold, and you do have that gold Celtic sword.
yeah, he got that right. Funnily enough, I got to show this to my dad because this side profile of me actually looks a
just
lot
like him.
like my grandfather.
Oh wow!
So it's kind of cool to see. Obviously, he's never seen my grandfather. I've never, I'm not going to dox my grandpa. But
He's had enough trouble in his days.
yeah. But yeah. So super cool. I love this second fan art I've been in. So it's really cool to see that people take our stuff and put us in these really heroic situations. I can't say that I've actually slayed a worm yet, of course.
I've slain a few worms in my day on accident, especially rolling over them with skateboards, but never with a sword.
Yeah, it's kind of an upgrade. Yeah, an accidental splatters. It's not quite slaying the beast, but
No.
But yeah, so really awesome. Big shout out to this gentleman for producing this work. I can say I am very honored to be featured.
Yeah, thank you, Leon. We really appreciate it, man. Super cool.
All right.
Awesome. So going on to the next, Dane's going to pull up a video that we're going to watch and we're going to live react to. This is something that I had kind of like planned, was essentially going to be like the crux of the podcast. I think that there's a lot of things that, especially Dane and I in the DMs will just be sending each other stuff back and forth. And we have so much to discuss. And I'm like, we need to share this. So Dane sent me this one this morning. I haven't watched the entire thing because I wanted to like kind of fully live react to it. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and watch it and then we'll discuss it. So what are we watching?
So to tee it up a little bit, is it Dequitum or Dequetium? I'm not sure how to pronounce the YouTube channel's name.
Looks like Dequitum, yeah.
But there are, historical martial artists, if you will, and they try to make very historically accurate combat that isn't choreographed. So none of this is scripted.
Oh, really?
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Practitioners. Obviously, they're not trying to really kill each other.
Sure.
But they are really, it's not scripted who's going to win or who is going to, or how the fight's going to unroll. It's just kind of they will naturally fight and play act, and whoever comes on top comes on top. They've made quite a few different videos, and they like to do some like samurai versus Viking. This is 2 Roman legionaries versus a knight. They've got a really cool pike and shot one they also just released, but I thought this one would be fascinating. We were just talking about the Roman connection and of King Arthur, and so that's kind of that Roman world, knightly world. But yeah, I haven't watched a ton myself, so without further ado, if you're ready for the viewing,
yeah, let's do it.
Let's give it a go.
I love the slow approach. It's so realistic.
Definitely.
When you first sent me this, I kind of thought that it was AI, but the way that he's moving so fluidly, it's like it's clearly human.
Definitely. And you can hear audio-wise, those are some real impacts.
I need to know how sharp their swords and this pick actually is. That's insane. That was an insane move. Oh. Good thing he had that neck plate. Oh.
It's hard to tell how hard they're really hitting.
Because that looked like he hit him in the fucking face.
Yeah.
The best part about the knight is he doesn't need a shield because your armor, you are a shield. You're a human shield. That's my favorite move in Assassin's Creed, the D-shield. Oh my god. Ooh. Damn. You know, on top of the fact that they're good, like, what would you say, athletes for the sort of like stunt work that they're doing. I don't know if you noticed the fact that the guy went rigid when the knife, you know, supposedly went into his throat, and then he went completely flaccid when it was taken out. He's an actor too.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, this is it's funny because I'm guessing it's not scripted, but I'm sure they're kind of role playing. Like if you get hit in a certain point, you gotta kind of play into it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a mix of acting and athleticism.
Totally.
So big props to these guys, first of all, for putting on this performance. It's well shot, great location, this forest, and I saw some ruins in the background. Let me see if I can.
Really?
You can kind of see some like Romanesque ruins kind of hanging in the back there.
Cool.
So great filming location. I'm not sure where these guys are based out of, but costumes look great. Or I shouldn't even really say costumes. The armor looks about as legit can be.
That's one of the things I wanted to ask you, because I feel you're much more well-versed in armor than I am, as far as I can tell. And I wanted to ask you, roughly, like, what century would you say that these legionaries are working out of, and the knight as well? Because I noticed that they have the plate on the back of the neck, and I know that that was something that was like first century AD and beyond.
Yeah, so these guys, they've got the iconic Lorica segmentata, that segmented plate. So I think that was first introduced maybe early 2nd century AD, and it was actually phased out within a couple centuries for mail again.
Right, okay.
But that arm guard, that gold arm guard he's wearing there, might be post-Dacian Wars. As we talked about with the Dacians, their Falks was so devastating, they started producing arm guards.
Yeah, makes sense.
So these guys are definitely early Empire.
And also, the reinforced brow, I believe, on the helmet is also a result of protecting against the Dacian Falks.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, they weren't going against a Dacian. This knight, I'm a little less certain of armor century and kind of design. I'm not as well versed on that, but have to be at least 14th, maybe 15th century. He's got plate, obviously. So
and if you had to guess, which region is he from, given the style of armor that he's wearing? Because I know that there's the two main ones. Go ahead and you can mute it while we're talking here. But because I know that there was like Gothic style knight armor, which is typical of like the French and the Germans, and possibly even like the Spanish as well. But I know that there was The Italians, I'm trying to remember exactly what it's called, but they had their sort of own like style of armor.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to look it up really quick.
Yeah, my knowledge is coming up a little short on a guess of where this might be from. Let me see if there
says anything in the description.
Yeah. Oh, and if you were asking about the weapons, they are rubber around a steel core.
Okay, so they are heavy like a real weapon, but they're blunted.
Yeah, they say to make these duels as safe as possible without creating choreography.
Yeah, because exactly, if the weight is off, then you're dancing.
Yeah, but
it's so impressive though.
This, I'm sure it probably still hurt a little bit.
Oh yeah. Go to the one where he kicks the bottom of the shield, and then he's able to like slash the guy in the arm because he I think it was a little bit before this, at the first a little bit more. Yeah, right here. Boom. You see that? He kicks the bottom of the shield out so that it leans forward, so he has an into his arm.
Slow-mo going.
There you go. Nice.
Let's see. We can get a real good...
This is perfect.
So he kicks it. It opens up there.
And then he comes straight in. God, it looks like he just misses his hand, but can you imagine? That would have fucking broken his arm, I think.
Yeah, I mean, at least the knights got full armor, gauntlets and everything. These Roman guys, they've got their limbs exposed and their legs exposed, their arms, their face. They're pretty brave for...
Dude, I'm saying, because the way that he swung that fucking pick so hard, I think he would have broken the guy's arm if he hit it straight on.
At least a hand if
dude, done some damage. But yeah, hats off to these guys for going this hard.
And I think this is really cool from a historical value as well, because we can read facts about a battle and we can kind of see in movies and stuff, but it's really hard to give an accurate idea of how things might unfold. And it's not clean, it's not pretty, it's not... there's a lot of posturing, there's a lot of kind of tense moments where they're just kind of like standing.
Yeah.
And I used to spar with foam swords, so a little less realistic than this, but you feel your opponent out, you get it's not just like a movie sword fight where you get straight into...
it's like real sparring, like an MMA.
Yeah. So it's clean, it's dirty, and the kills are... Yeah, it's not like someone getting...
Yeah, go back right before he got the first guy, because it looks like he hit him right in the head. Watch this. Hits him in the back. Legs, and then boom.
Yeah. And a lot of kills on the battlefield were probably like that. A guy getting wrestled down, a lot of grappling, and getting just beat until he's no longer a threat.
There was a movie called, did you ever see The Last Duel, I think it was called?
No, but I've heard very good things about it.
They had a really, like, The Last Duel that it's sort of centered around. It's a really realistic fight scene between two knights, and they show really well, like, the rough, like, dirtiness of what it was like to fight it, because you're obviously covered in armor. What you're really looking for is like an in on the guy's neck, or like through his visor hold, and like stab his brains out. And it's just so like, you don't think about those kinds of things until there's this part where this one guy, his visor's like locked, and he's trying to break the lock off of his visor so he can stab him in the face. And it's just like, Jesus Christ, like the balls you gotta have to be able to look another man in the face and try and break his visor open so you could stab him in his... it's unbelievable.
yeah, it's brutal, grim, but badass. You know, and then talking just a little bit about kind of the the technology and the tactics and everything.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, there was a revolt in Gaul, and I'll try to. There's an image of this I'll send to you to put up for the audience.
Throw it up, yeah.
Where these armored gladiators, they were super heavily armored, and their helmets even look like great helms, like knight helms. This is from 1st century AD or something.
Yeah.
And they rise up against the Romans, and the way the chronicler describes the battle, the Roman swords and their throwing spears aren't doing anything against this heavy armor. So they get their construction tools, the tools they use to build forts and roads, like their shovels and their pickaxes, and they hew the guys with that instead. And their armor is of the gladiators so heavy. And it's not like this medieval armor, which is, the technology is, it's form-fitting and flexible. This is with much cruder technology. They can't move very well, so they kind of get split open, knocked over, and picked apart like tin cans.
Gosh.
But that just goes to show how much the technology changed. We often think of the medieval period as like, when the Roman Empire collapses, everyone forgets technology and there's no innovation. Yeah. But technology was military technology was growing pretty steadily.
That's something that people don't think about because like obviously you hear the term Dark Ages. First of all, a lot of people don't really know what the quote unquote Dark Ages are. It's really that period from about the fall of the Western Roman Empire until about the 800s, 900s, because we lost a lot of, like, nobody was writing anything. Or at least, like, outside of the church, nobody was really writing or documenting a lot of this stuff. And so that's why they call it the Dark Ages, just because there's a lot of, like, history. It just goes dark for a while. That doesn't mean that innovations weren't being made. That doesn't mean that it was just the entire... It wasn't like a complete Bronze Age collapse in the classical era. Like, it's just, we just lost a bit of writing. We didn't really know exactly what was going on. And then we pop up a few hundred years later. All of these advancements have been made. So many cultural shifts have occurred. And then they're like, okay, I guess we could start over here. You know what I mean? But a lot of people think that it's like, people think that we regressed during the Dark Ages. And that's not necessarily the case. It's kind of propaganda, actually.
Yeah, and it's propaganda that's been going on since the Renaissance. So, in all fairness, the Renaissance, then the Victorian Age, now going forward, they looked back on the Middle Ages as they like to look back on as dark. But it's, I mean, politically fractured, yes, and there was, of course, disease and stuff, but it's not like some post-apocalyptic war zone for hundreds of years. Like, people
I saw this video. So somebody made a short, and it was like comparing, 3rd century Rome with like 8th century Rome, like Roman Golden Age and Roman Dark Age. And in the Roman Golden Age, it's just like bright and sunny, and all the buildings are perfect, and everybody's walking around all happy. And then in the Dark Ages, it was made by AI, but it's like it's always raining. Course. It's always raining and gloomy, and everything is just destroyed and in tatters, and people are like huddled in there, like they just look unhealthy and unwell. It's like it's
the medieval filter is insane. Yeah,
it is. It's so misunderstood.
The medieval world was a very colorful world. That is for sure. So yeah, it's really goes to show how much technology had developed, and you kind of have to imagine, I guess, like if these guys are trying to act a little bit as their characters, if you will. Right. You got these two Romans, and they're obviously trained soldiers, probably experienced soldiers. But you come across a man wearing so much armor, more armor than you've seen anybody wear. Of course, there was, I mentioned those gladiators, and there's also like cataphracts who were heavily armored, but armor to this degree that was this heavy, but also this lightweight and flexible for how much it covered. They they aren't trained to deal with this kind of person. You can kind of see they don't really know what to do against him. They're
exactly
fighting how they would fight anybody else, but they weren't fighting someone like this.
They're not prepared at all to fight
a
person who has 2 free hands with weapons in both hands.
Right.
Clearly.
And they're not trained like maybe if they were able to get them to the ground and get their knives out, but they're not trained for that kind of fighting. They're trying to hit them with their swords, but their swords, they're very broad bladed swords. They're not they're not built to slide into gaps. And you can kind of see the desperation as it goes on of just like, he's very good at acting kind of stunned and fatigued too.
Oh, totally. You
desperation here, but it's like he doesn't really know what the hell to make of this guy.
Well, I mean, because like you wrestled, obviously. You've done martial arts for a long time. I have like a brief history of doing jiu-jitsu for a few years, and one thing that I can say is that when you are up against an opponent that is something like you've never really seen before, the sort of mental and psychological fatigue that induces, it drains your energy completely, because it's like whatever stamina or cardio you may have accrued, that kind of goes out the window when your brain is in total fight or flight mode.
Yeah. No,
you would think you're always in fight or flight mode when you're literally fighting. Yeah. But a lot of the times, like if you know what you're doing and you're well trained, you can control yourself. But when you're up against something that you are completely unfamiliar with, untrained for, that's like that goes out the window. Your breathing starts taking over, and you can't think straight. You get that tunnel vision. He's probably not seeing these attacks coming.
Yeah, I can think of one really good example from when I was younger. I was doing a cage match, below the neck pancration. Oh, cool. And the guy was fighting. He was very good at push kicks or teeps, and he had very long legs, and it was just a style I hadn't really trained much against, and I didn't really have a counter for. I wanted to get him in close for to grapple. Right. But he could just keep me at a distance. And one kick, it wasn't like a hard kick, like it wasn't a kill shot, it was just against the stomach. Though. But it was like every time I went in, I just didn't have a counter, so he could just do that over and over and over. And at a certain point, it was just like...
You start to panic.
Yeah, it was like, what the hell am I supposed to do? I can't get close to this guy, I can't do my thing. So I can never really close the gap on that. And eventually, repeated hit to the stomach, by the end of that, I was like, it was starting to hurt. So you're definitely right. When you're not prepared at all to fight a certain style, then you kind of just default on your instincts and you. They say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing without expecting different results. But when that's all you know, and you're in that fight or flight mode,
there's nothing else to do, really.
Yeah. Knights were... The Legionaries were professional soldiers in the sense that it was their job. They signed up, they got paid and trained by the state, at least at that point in the Empire. But knights were warrior nobility. They were trained essentially their whole lives for fighting and for matters of war. So while the legionary might be a professional, the knight, this is him in his element. This is what he's been doing since he was a kid.
Exactly. Getting ready for this. It's comparable to the idea of coming up against a guy who, started his MMA training when he was 18 years old versus a guy who grew up in the Agoge when he was 6 or 7.
Yeah, 6 or 7.
Yeah, I know, dude. Fucking, I said 6, 7 in the last video.
Yeah,
and
you did.
Catch it. You did. It on the, I didn't. Gosh.
Yeah.
But it's crazy to like. That's another thing that I people don't really think about in terms of like how well trained knights were, because I think a lot of people, obviously, like, knights, chivalry, you think of them as like these high class individuals, but I think people don't really understand that they were just like completely, like their life revolved around training for war. And I think when people think of knights, this showed a pretty good, like they think of them as like clunky and like unable to move very well, and like they resort to one style of fighting because, you know, if they're off their horse and they don't have their lance, like what can they really do? And this just goes to show that like their armor was a lot more mobile than people may think. Obviously, you have people who would be in knight's armor that really didn't know what they were doing. That certainly would have happened some of the times, but for most, you know, most of the actual like knights, you know, they were very well equipped.
Yeah, and a lot of people chalk up their success to, well, they could afford, you know, the horse and the lance and the armor, and all the maintenance therein, which is true, of course, but we can't discount their skill. They were trained for this, and there are times when they would, you know, for night attacks, they might forego armor because it's loud and clunky, and then it's just you're relying on your skill at arms. So they were not just well equipped, but they were killers to the core. Very, very fearsome, and you have to imagine being a footman on a medieval battlefield going up against these guys would probably be pretty terrifying.
Oh yeah,
seeing a bunch of these knights on horseback, no less, coming your way, and it
kind of makes you wonder. What would be the more terrifying situation, is if this knight accidentally time traveled back in time, or if these guys time traveled forward in time?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
They're like, oh shit, there's knights everywhere.
Yeah.
Hard to
now,
say.
granted, this is, I mean, it's a 2v1, but it's different dynamics than a full-scale battlefield. I saw someone put up on Twitter 15 knights versus an entire Roman legion, and I think that's a little absurd.
Yeah.
Especially because a Roman legion includes cavalry, and it includes they have those little scorpions, those siege bows. I'm pretty sure that thing could shoot through armor,
probably,
or at least make you hurt. But a medieval army versus a Roman army, ancient Roman army, people tend to underestimate the medieval period. They joke it's like 10 dudes. And it's like, the armies were smaller, but each of these guys was a frickin' badass.
Yeah, well, it's because it's like what we were talking about earlier, you know, like, was the fighting democratic or was it aristocratic? Like, who was actually taking place in the fighting? And that's why the army. Like, one of the other things I think is so interesting too is that a lot of times in these battles, like there were so, especially in the medieval period, they were so sort of like diplomatic and well organized that they would sometimes meet after. This is something I've heard, that they would meet after the battles to agree upon a name for the battle, so that both of their annals and their records would reflect it accurately. That they were both talking about the same thing.
I mean, people say, "Oh, knights weren't really honorable or whatever because they killed people." No, their concept of honor was violent, but they did practice it a lot of the times. You read too about like knights who they'll agree to do like 15 versus 15, have a duel. Edward the Black Prince, when he was close to death, some battle they brought him out in a litter because he was old and sick, so he could watch a duel between English and French knights, and it would have been pretty easy for some guy to try to go kill him on his deathbed, but he just watched, and it was kind of an honorable thing. Now, Roman battles did too. They sometimes had duels between champions, especially earlier in Rome's history. But by the time of the Empire, with these guys, they were pretty They were like, let's get the job done by any means necessary.
Now, something just kind of popped into my head. I'm curious if you know the answer. When I think of knights, I think of like Germany, France, Spain, Portugal, Italy, these regions, England. But I don't ever think of like the Celtic regions, like Ireland or Scotland. And I know that that's because there would have been a lot of like I guess you could just broadly call it like English domination for a long time. But is this something that like those regions just specifically did not develop for like lack of resources, or just purely different fighting styles, or like what did the rest of the sort of world look like at the time when these regions had knights?
Well, at least for Scotland, the lowlands at least did have knights. Ireland, I'm honestly not too sure of. I know they had mercenaries fighting in England, and Wales, Scotland, and Ireland had a lot of other, I guess you could say, troop types, if you will, to use like a strategy game term, units, what have you, skirmishers and lighter horsemen and raiders and such things. But I don't know much about Irish nobility fighting in that period specifically, but Scotland did have knights for sure.
Interesting. Cool to know.
I think we think of Mel Gibson's
Braveheart,
the Highlanders didn't wear that stuff until well into the gunpowder age, so they kind of just pulled that, I think, to make the contrast between the Scottish and the English more obvious.
Of course.
Mel Gibson should be wearing a suit of armor comparable to his English adversary. But for the movie, it looks freaking awesome because
it does,
I mean,
that's good to know, though. I wouldn't have known that myself personally.
But knights also, Italy, and the East, Eastern Europe had knights. They had more light cavalry as well because they had kind of that influence from the steppe and all of that. The Scandinavia started to adopt knights once they, started becoming Christian, and the more Viking style of warfare faded away. The Eastern Romans or the Byzantines had comparable heavy cavalry, cataphracts, although they were socially kind of different than the whole chivalry and all that. And the Middle East had their own equivalents, and even a long time ago, I did a video on Malian cavalry, and they were essentially knights or equivalent to like Arab Mamluks, or Egyptian Mamluks, when they finally got access to war horses through trade with the Islamic empires. First thing they did was put armor on the horses, get lances and bows, and they basically fought like heavy cavalry.
Interesting.
Just goes to show how important a horse can be.
Oh my god!
For transforming your style of fighting. But and of course, samurai. I find the samurai very fascinating because they're so comparable to European knights in terms of they've got their own code of honor.
The Bushido,
they're like feudal lords who kind of fight the same. They've got their war obligations. They're heavily armored, and there's a lot of parallels. Even though they obviously didn't have much cross-cultural contact with Europe at that time, Japan was pretty isolated from the European world until the Europeans got on their sailing ships. But
it's interesting how that happens, huh?
It's almost like a convergent evolution type thing. They say like certain animals will develop the same traits to handle the same environment. It's kind of same thing.
One of the things that I can say from my experience, having studied philosophy, is you have the axial age, which is a period in time when Buddhism, Confucianism, and Greek philosophy, and even like you could say like Middle Eastern Zoroastrianism, all emerged at the same time. And, Confucius lived at the same time as Socrates, and the Buddha and Zoroaster, for however historically legitimate he may be, would have lived in roughly the exact same time period without having much interaction with one another, but all just developing these incredibly influential philosophies at the exact same time. It's just something where, like, even though the different cultures would have been in different sort of periods of their growth, they still experience the same sort of cultural revolution at the same time, which is so interesting.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating that it's hard to what's the word I'm trying to say, put into perspective.
Yeah, how much was going on at one time?
Yeah, like we think of like the Socrates, the ancient Greek world, we think of it as like a block of history, but while that's going on, the rest of the world isn't asleep.
Exactly.
And of course, as we talked about, kind of in our Nolan's Odyssey video, the travelers and things there's probably more cultural awareness even from faraway lands than one might imagine. But still very fascinating. I'm going to pull down the video here in a sec and put it back to just us to finish up. One last thing I did want to point out, though. I just thought...
Yeah, please.
The iconography on the Roman shields. We always see the like classic red with the yellow kind of wings, if you will. But they were highly decorated individually, and it's just cool. I like this elephant. That's chilling. I'm not sure why. I don't know much about this.
Maybe an homage to Carthage.
Yeah. The 5th Legion. I don't know much about it if it's a real unit or if they actually used an elephant or what. But
it's a good question.
It's cool though. It's you gotta imagine they spent some time sitting around painting. I wonder if anyone who wasn't a good artist ended up
Roman 5th Legion. The recording stopped, but I did want to show that the 5th Legion does indeed have an elephant on it. And we saw here, so it looks like they were active from 52 BC until either AD 70 or AD 86. So it was during the time of Julius Caesar. And shows here, you can even see attested members who were part of the 5th Legion. And it shows that they all fought in the province of the Rhine frontier, which is exactly, at least close to that sort of foresty region where they would have been fighting. So the historical accuracy of the reenactment goes a lot deeper than we first thought.
Yeah, it's very fortuitous or good attention to detail.
We'll definitely have to bring this account back for another video in the future.
Yeah, I've seen some of their stuff. It's very, very good work. And I think, as much as it's for entertainment, obviously it's fun for us to watch as history enthusiasts. I think there is a degree of real applicability when it comes to learning history. It's same kind of, they ran those experiments with Mycenaean armor a while back, or not a while back, in the last couple of years. Not this account. The Greek army did, like the modern Greek army with some researchers cool. They volunteered some soldiers to wear the bronze armor and actually try to fight in it, march in it, spend some time out in the sun. And it kind of debunks some beliefs so that like only chariot riders use this armor because it wouldn't be practical for combat. And then the guys threw on the armor and found, it actually wasn't practical for foot combat.
Wow.
So you gotta sometimes rein in the academic types.
Yeah.
Throw the stuff on and see what makes sense. It's not perfect science, obviously, but
I love that. I remember there was this. It was on the Lex Friedman podcast. He was talking to I think he's a researcher, and he's also a professor at some university. But I'm pretty sure he's a professor of history or classics or something like that. And he undertook like a project with one of his PhD students who was obsessed with Alexander the Great. And they wanted to recreate the Macedonian linothorax that Alexander would have worn. He's depicted wearing in like the most famous depictions of Alexander. And it was essentially this linen chest piece or the entire linothorax would be over your entire thoracic cavity. And it was essentially made of linen and glue. And the reason that they know that is because when they were able to find or maybe they weren't able to find any recreations of it, but they just have like some historical attestations of the fact that it was made of linen and glue. And they tried to actually recreate a linothorax using only linen that would have been available during the 4th century BC, and like glue, how they would have made glue, which is beyond me. But like they from animals and whatever, collagen, animal collagen, that sort of thing, and they were able to recreate one, and they made to prove how effective it was at protecting the body. They had the PhD student wear it and stand like 50 yards away or something and take an arrow to the chest, which is insane sounding.
That
right?
is brave, because
they tested it on a dummy like 10 times just to make sure that it wouldn't actually pierce through. But just for the sake of like the lore and the sake of the experiment, he was like, I got to get in that, and you have to shoot me with a bolt, and this thing is going to protect me. And it worked. And he walked away unscathed.
Credit to the archer too. If his aim was off,
oh my god, I know. Can you imagine?
Yeah, I don't know if he was wearing any other protection, but if you aim a little high and
fuck, yeah,
very brave. That's pretty cool dad lore to say. Yeah, I got shot with arrows for a project.
I think his thesis passed. I think that he got his PhD.
I would hope so. I would hope so.
Yeah.
But that kind of field testing really is valuable.
Totally.
The other thing with Dequitum or channels like this, because we complain a lot, and rightly so, about like Hollywood, like the Odyssey not taking care to be faithful or what have you, or putting in effort. And I think it's just as important to show love to the people who do and support channels like this that are doing this really awesome stuff. I think it's very cool, and I think more people need to hear about it, and they need to get some love so that they continue to be able to do stuff like this in the age of the internet. So the good thing is projects like this can get off the ground and get views and funding from a community that appreciates it, whereas Hollywood now isn't really catering to a historical audience. That's their own thing. But it's like, well, if Hollywood's not going to do it, let's just go show our love to actual passionate history nerds. Why not,
Yeah, I still have faith. I remember somebody was telling me something about how Mel Gibson is trying to start his own sort of like new Hollywood in Nashville or something like that. It might just be a rumor, but
I know he's trying to make a production, I think, about some conflict in Spain. Maybe
interesting.
Around the Reconquista or something like that.
That'd be amazing. It's what I'm studying right now for my next video.
So Yeah. No, there is effort out there, and I think whenever someone does something we like, it should be rewarded.
Yeah, 100%.
And given the due credit that it deserves. So it's definitely don't want to be a situation where we like complain and then someone does what we want and then they don't get anything from it.
No, seriously, exactly.
It's all about patronizing what you want to see. So
yeah, and make sure that you're putting the money towards it. You know, when Mel Gibson's movie does come out, we need to not pirate it. We need to actually pay for it.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that's in theaters.
Definitely. Was there anything else that you wanted to cover regarding armor before we move on to our next topic?
I think we're good on that. Just well-made video, awesome guys. Just great to see people doing this and that love. So passionate about history, they're willing to throw on this armor and hit each other over the head. And I'm glad to see nobody got seriously hurt.
Yeah, let's hope so. We're not really sure, huh?
yeah. If someone did seriously get hurt and they kept up the acting, that's even more impressive.
Very impressive.
So great work to everyone involved in that production. Very entertaining and very historically enlightening. So
nice.
Shout out to them. But that's all I've got on that.
Beautiful. I did want to point out to everybody who might just be listening or has not seen yet, but both Dane and I are wearing shirts from Soul Department, which is a company by our friend Soulbrah, and he's been kind enough to sort of make us affiliate team members, and Dane is like one of the most recent affiliates. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, when did you sort of like discover Soulbrah and get on the Soulbrah train?
So, yeah, it's funny. I'm actually writing a video kind of about that right now in reference to this that I just got from
this may
him.
May come out afterwards. So
yeah, from the drop. But long story short, I first encountered Soulbrah screenshots of his Twitter on either Instagram, might have even been iFunny, honestly.
How funny.
So,
wow.
Probably in like 2020, 2021.
Okay.
And this is, of course, when he was anonymous or faceless before his face reveal. So I have been following him for a long time. I've used his subs for a while. I have a pair of Soul shorts, red ones, that have literally been with me from Florida to California. They've been on top of mountains. They've been in the ocean. They've been in the gym. They've been all over the place. One of the best garments I've ever gotten. So, been a fan of Soulbrah. He inspired me in part to create content, and he's kind of influenced
myself
some of
as well.
Just the philosophies and everything. I'm not really like a health influencer, if you will. So I don't talk as much, of course, about the.
We talked about why on the last episode, I think, or on one of our podcasts. I can't remember.
Yeah. But just his whole approach to life and everything, very inspiring, and being able to work with him and connect with him is just divine providence. I have to say.
No, it's certainly an honor.
You get inspired by someone to create content, and then eventually they find you and reach out, and I can say it's high quality stuff for sure.
No, it's amazing. Yeah, I seriously I've been wearing these pump covers to the gym. I've been wearing them out. They're like gorgeous shirts. Not trying to make this into like a salesy thing. But Dane and I both have codes. If you are interested in the clothes, you guys can go check them out. Use either of our codes, whoever you think is more handsome, whatever. But yeah, no, I found Soulbrah around the exact same time too. It was actually back in 2020, and funny enough, like it was during the COVID lockdowns, and everybody just had so much time on their hands. I remember I was doing college online, and I was at home. And I was in my mom's backyard just like literally tanning every single day. But I was still using sunscreen, and I was also consuming copious amounts of seed oils. I didn't know what they were at the time. And I came across this Instagram post one day while I was just scrolling, and it was a different guy's account. The account today is actually called Power Rhetoric. Shout out to Power Rhetoric. At the time, he was called something else. Flow Modus was the name of the account. Long story short, I saw this picture. It was like statue of Hercules or something, and it said average man before seed oils. And I was like, what the fuck is a seed oil? And so I clicked on it, and I just started kind of consuming some of this guy's posts. I hit follow, and then as soon as I did, the first suggested account was Soulbrah. So I clicked on his account too, consumed all the content. I was sold, threw away my sunscreen, stopped consuming seed oils, and my health just absolutely skyrocketed in the next like 5-6 months. I got tan for the first time in my life, which is something that, as a half Brazilian person, I mean, like all of my genetics are European, but like my mom's from Brazil, so you'd think I'd be able to do it. It changed my life. It was one of those things where I was like, wow, this shit actually works. It was like kind of one of those like weirdly tangible things. And so I had been a fan of a follower of Soulbrah's ever since. Yeah, he was actually, I reached out to him a few times, like back in the early days, 2021. And then he came out with that Discord group Soul Club back in late 2021. And I ended up joining it later on. And he was just very keen on like encouraging people to create and just post stuff. And it was the first time that anybody was ever like, oh, like, you know, if you are an individual with a brain, you have unique ideas and you should share them with the world. You never know what can happen. That's why I started posting on Twitter. And that ultimately led to me posting on TikTok years later. And then that's why I'm here today, genuinely. And I kind of just wanted to give him some shine really quick, because he has been a very huge influence amongst many other people as well. But initially, it was Soulbrah telling me to post that first tweet, and I did, and then he retweeted it, and then I gained my first couple hundred followers, and I was like, this is pretty cool. But yeah, definitely an honor to be working with this company.
Yeah, just to tack on a little bit, it's funny, he was one of the inspirations when I started making content, not as directly, but look at how that ended up. Now we're here.
Exactly.
Running a show, talking about the things we're passionate about, and hopefully that the audience loves. Yeah. It's just funny how one person can change so many lives through a domino effect.
Oh, I know. Yeah. And that's the importance of sending your message out there. If you think that you have anything unique to say, if you have anything that's going to be of value to people, which clearly his message for myself and you and many others was very, very meaningful, added a lot of like purpose to our lives, perhaps in a time when we needed it. I know myself, I was a little bit directionless at the time, and it kind of just gave me something to anchor onto, I guess, a little bit of an identity in a time when I felt like my identity was shifting a little bit.
I think, honestly, we could do a full episode about this, because when you said COVID, I thought a lot about 2020 specifically, and kind of that whole COVID crucible that happened. Yeah. And I think it was a lot of ways a make or break for a lot of people our age. And you either got swept away by it in the struggle, or it kind of reawakened you or opened you up to kind of a whole new world. Kind of that... And it wasn't a good... I'm not saying what happened was good.
No, of course, but
it was so bad
on
that
top
you were forced... At least myself, I was forced to look at myself and my life and everything, and try to find purpose in everything. But I think we could discuss the cultural ramifications and everything in its own episode, because I could go on and on about that. But
fair enough. We are at about an hour, I believe. Our time cut off originally, but I think we're probably at an hour here.
Yeah, that last one was 45 minutes about when I screwed up.
Perfect. We're at exactly
this is about So
I did want to. I did it way too late. I reached out to. I posted on the Instagram story to see if we could get some people who wanted to ask us questions, like while I was at the gym an hour before we shot. So we do have one question that came in. Let me refresh it and see if another one came in. But so only question that we got comes from Max Ruesga 138. How Norse religion spread to the Celts, or vice versa?
Well, I think the Proto-Indo-European religion kind of served as the basis for both.
Yes.
That Germanic variant, if you will, kind of ended up becoming the Norse paganism, and Celtic had its own. It's not really like one
pantheon
came from another.
Yeah.
But they both came from the same root.
They're derivations of the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because with the original, the Celtic expansion would have occurred earlier. The like Latin culture is, or would it have been the Hallstatt culture? I think Latin came before Hallstatt, but that would have been around like the 8th century BC when those cultures sort of solidified in Central and Western Europe. Not quite sure if they had made it into the British Isles yet, but Celtic culture at large had their own mythology, and it was very similar to the original Proto-Indo-European. They have a sky father, they have a Poseidon-like figure, they have a Hestia-like fire figure, and all these sorts of things. And the Norse religion did not develop out of Celticism or vice versa. Like Dane mentioned, they would have both grown from the same branch, the same root, and then became their own branches on the same tree, if that sort of makes sense. But technically, I guess if you wanted to put a label on it, the Celtic religion would have technically arisen first, I suppose, since they were an earlier distinct culture. But also, if you think about it, the people who would have become the Norse would have already had that mythology, just in a much more primitive version.
And that's what I don't know. For example, like when we talk about the Anglo-Saxons coming into England and the Jutes and all that, they had their Germanic paganism. And you've got like Wotan, who obviously
is Odin.
Yeah, but I don't know how much changed in those few centuries from like the Vendel period into the actual Viking Age that everyone thinks of when they think of the Norse. I don't know how similar or different.
Well, there would have been like Scandinavians living in Scandinavia, like in the what we call the Jastorf culture, ever since the I guess not the Bronze Age, but since the like Middle Iron Age, and the Woden figure that we see originally in the Germanic cultures, which would have included the Norse, is sort of like the proto, Deus Pater figure, Sky Father, and then that develops into Wotan in like the Anglo-Saxon, and then becomes Odin in the later Norse sagas and stuff like that. So same figure. I'm actually not sure what the Celtic Sky Father figure is called. That would be interesting to know.
I want to say it starts with a C and it's like Unos or something, but I could be a completely different god.
Looks like Tyrannus, maybe.
Oh, okay. So I was off.
Frequently identified as Celtic thunder and sky god, often equated with the Roman Jupiter. So Tyrannus.
Okay.
Because the Celtic culture emerged earlier, and also another thing to consider too is that the Celtic culture essentially arose out of a mixture of the original bell-beaker farmers of Western Europe and the migrating Proto-Indo-European Yamnaya people. So the Yamnaya people mixed with the bell-beaker culture in Central and Western Europe. And then that new, like, steppe-derived bell-beaker culture, because the culture remained the same, and if you know anything about archaeology, like, they just name the culture after whatever pottery they're finding, which makes it incredibly difficult to actually trace who is who. But then these bell-beaker people who now have, 50% steppe-derived DNA, 50% farmer DNA, they ended up migrating back, which makes it even more confusing, back to Central Europe, interacting with the northern corded ware culture, which is where the Germanic peoples and the Scandinavian peoples, that sort of thing, come from. And then now they're like 3/4 steppe-derived and 1/4 farmer derived. And that's when we see the culmination of what we know as Proto-Celtic culture, which would eventually become the Italic peoples, the British people, the Celtiberians in Spain and Portugal, that sort of thing, the Gauls in France. And that would have occurred a lot earlier than the Germanic sort of solidification of culture. So that's probably why the gods sound so different, whereas Wotan and Odin are nearly the same figure.
Yeah, and I guess we have to imagine, too, over the course of history, I mean, things changed as religion naturally does, and there was probably always a degree of cross-contamination between the peoples through trade, pagan religions probably aren't as dynamic. I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for. Where like when you look at like Christianity and there's big like schisms and like
because they don't agree on one word in the very doctrine and all that based. And I think the pagan religions, at least based off of Proto-Indo-European religion, are a little less. It's a little bit more based.
It's not like you're reading your pagan Bible wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, probably not as dramatic of shifts, but
yeah, totally.
Very, very fascinating stuff. Of course,
totally. So maybe we can jump into some more pagan mythology, religion. Some people get offended when you say mythology. Mythology I use with the utmost respect. But what were you going to say?
We did touch a little bit on this last time too, when said the Anglo-Saxons coming into Britain found old Celtic stuff, and they liked the art style and everything, and the Celts themselves had already abandoned it because they were Christian now. But the Anglo-Saxons like, this stuff's awesome.
It reminds us of our shit.
Yeah. But yeah, was that the only question you got?
That was the only question that we received for this week. Like I mentioned, Dane and I we're new to this technology stuff. We don't really know how these computers work.
Yeah, we're barbarians. Come on.
We are barbarians at heart. We are trying to figure out how to make the podcast live so that we can do a live show, make it a little bit more interactive. We can get some questions from you guys. And I think it'll be something fun to do because we are trying to coordinate this to be shot on a weekly basis. So if we can do that, then we'll have a live show immediately. Let us know in the comments if you guys have any questions for next week, and what sort of topics you guys want to see discussed. And I think that we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Well, Jonas, it was an honor as always, and very exciting stuff, and I hope the audience enjoyed as much as we did making it.
Absolutely. Make sure that you guys like the video. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure that you rate it 5 stars. It actually helps us a lot as far as exposure goes. Make sure that you're following, and if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, and hopefully you may also be listening to this on Apple Podcasts, as we just got approved for Apple Podcasts, so we'll be on there as well. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.
See you next week.